Ring, ring, ring. Who's that on the Vox? Oh shit, that's right, it's me, your boy. So, gang, in this video, I'm going to talk about the changes I'd like to see to the Plague Marine datasheet to make the unit more competitive. To keep things simple, in this video, I'll just be talking about the Plague Marine datasheet itself. There is a precedent for Plague Marines to get an updated datasheet because we've seen units have updated datasheets in Chapter Approved. Like in the most recent Chapter Approved, a lot of the Slaanesh demons got an updated datasheet, and I think it was Chapter Approved 2017. Intercessors got an updated datasheet to account for new kit options. Now we can see from the Thousand Suns Psychic Awakening book that they simply got 9 sub-factions, which had a unique warlord trait, a psychic power, and an artifact, but there was no change to the Rubric Marines datasheet. I still think that even with the points drop, Rubric Marines are overcosted at 16 points a model. If you look at the Space Marine Codex, Sternguard Veterans are 14 points a model and come with a -2 AEP bolter. So the rubrics are paying 2 points for 1 less attack, 1 inch less of movement, an invulnerable save, and all is dust ability. So I'm not sure that that's worth 2 points. And then if you compare them to the Primaris Marines with the combat doctrines, they can get access to an AP2 bolter for most of the game anyway. So content warning, this is a bit of a wish listy video. So I think it's impossible to talk about Plague Marines without also talking about Primaris Intercessors, because Games Workshop have balanced 8th edition around Primaris Intercessors and Plague Marines being roughly equivalent. They've always stayed roughly equivalent in terms of their points cost, and they are roughly equivalent in terms of the amount of damage they can take. Primaris Intercessors are much better at taking a high volume of low strength shots, whereas Plague Marines are better at taking a low volume of high strength, high AP, high damage shots. However, where Plague Marines and Intercessors differ is Intercessors are naturally much better at outputting damage. They've got 2 attacks base, which gets buffed to 3 attacks with the Imperial version of Hateful Assault. Their bolt gun is a 30 inch range and does AP -1. And then with the Tactical Doctrine, they become AP -2, which is huge, and they could be AP -2 from turn 2, so they could be like that for the whole battle if the Space Marine player wanted. So there's a huge gap in terms of the damage potential between the 2 units. And 8th edition is primarily about damage output rather than resilience. You want to be reducing your opponent's model pool. If you're reducing your opponent's model pool, they've got less models to harm you and your army. So there seems to be a big disconnect between how Games Workshop points Imperial units versus how they point Chaos units. I'm just going to talk about changes that I think could be actually possible for the datasheet. We'd all like to see Plague Marines go to 2 wounds a model, and there were a ton of rumours swirling around before Chapter Approved 2019 was released, saying that all cult troops would go to 2 wounds and take a slight points increase. But sadly, the opposite happened, and all the data sheets changed the same, and cult troops just took slight points decreases instead, apart from Plague Marines. Rubrics went down in points, Khorne Berserkers went down in points, and Noise Marines went down in points, but Plague Marines sadly stayed the same at 16 points a model. So I've thought of 5 changes that I'd love to see happen to the Plague Marine datasheet to make Plague Marines a more competitive option. And I'll go through these 1 to 5, 1 being most likely to happen, maybe 5 being least likely to happen. So the first change I'd like to see, and the most likely change we'll see, is that Plague Marines do not lose Relentless Advance. We can see that the Thousand Suns in their Psychic Awakening book still got their Legion trait in addition to their sub-faction bonuses. However, I think it's likely that Relentless Advance will somehow be reworded to exclude cultists, just like we saw in the new Chaos Space Marine book with the Mere Mortals ability. So cultists in that book are excluded from the different Legion traits that the Chaos Space Marines get. I think Relentless Advance is a little bit weak as a sub-faction bonus compared to some of the Space Marine factions. So maybe we could see it reworded so that the bolters always count as stationary when shooting. So you could have Plague Marines moving up the board and firing 2 shots at 24 inches. However, I'm not sure that Games Workshop would like that, because they want the Plague Marines to be moving up the board and getting close to the enemy. And 24 inches isn't exactly close. So number 2, I think it'd be great to make the bolters that Plague Marines carry Plague bolters, so they gain the Plague weapon ability. So if you look at one of the main problems with Plague Marines, it's a 16-point model and its damage output is just a bolt gun. Well, the Sisters of Battle have been released recently, and they're 9 points a model and have a bolt gun. So you've got a situation where Plague Marines are 7 points more expensive, but have the same damage output as a Battle Sister, which is a huge problem. If you make the bolt guns Plague weapons, it opens up possibilities to have a Lord of Arch Contaminator nearby buffing them, so that all of their bolt gun shots will reroll to wound, thus wounding opponents more often. And then you'll have the opportunity to increase this even further by casting Veterans of the Long War on the unit. This is teased a bit in some of the fluff that's been released recently for the Greater Goods book, because it describes the Plague Marines as firing bolters which make a wet thudding noise when they shoot, so sounds a lot like Plague bolters, you know. So number 3, I also thought it'd be great for Plague Knives to become AP -1, so that Plague Marines are like the dark mirror image almost of Primaris Marines. Primaris Marines have their bolt rifles where they're -1 AP, but then Plague Marines do -1 AP in assault with their Plague Knives, and there's so many buffs for Plague weapons in the Codex already. They can reroll wounds if they've got an Arch Contaminator Lord nearby. You can cast Blades of Putrefaction on them to get them to do mortals on a 6, and it gives them +1 to wound. So -1 AP would be a really nice little buff for the Plague Knives. And I figured that we're probably going to get Litanies, so the Tallyman will have it be changed to have Litanies instead of just a reroll to hit or an assault. And it'd be great for one of the Litanies to be target a friendly Death Guard unit and increase the AP of any Plague weapons they hold by 1. So then you could have a scenario where you're shooting the Plague bolters, they're rerolling all wounds and they're causing -1 AP, and then in assault you could reroll all wounds and your Plague Knives are causing -2 AP. So number 4, I'd like to see Plague Marines go to 2 attacks as standard. Intercessors get 2 attacks as standard, and Plague Marines are 10,000-year-old veterans, so you would have thought they could get 2 attacks as standard as well. And it means when you arm them with dual Plague Knives, they'll have 3 attacks as standard, which goes up to 4 with the Hateful Assault ability. So you could make these guys into insane assault powerhouses with 4 attacks each. Or as Jack of all trades and have them be able to jump out of a Rhino, fire their bolters off, Plague bolters off, and then charge into assault with 3 attacks each. And number 5, I'd love to see the Plague Marine close combat weapons get a revamp. Looking at the weapons, it seems like Games Workshop did the concept art for the Plague Marines, made models that looked cool, a Plague Marine with a mace and an axe, and then wrote the rules afterwards, because the mace and axe loadout just seems mad in the rule set. Why would you want to have both the close combat weapons? I guess it's to have the ability to switch between the two and choose the best close combat weapon for the situation, but it's just not a very competitive option. The Great Plague Cleaver as well, I don't see why you take that instead of a Power Fist. Maybe you could make the Power Fist a plague weapon as well. That'd be great to see. And I think to fix the Great Plague Cleaver, it would be good for it to give the Plague Marine holding it an extra attack, because then with the Hateful Assault ability, you could have that thing dishing out 3 attacks. The only Death Guard close combat weapons that see any use are the dual Plague Knives and the Flail of Corruption, so it'd be great to see the Power Fist become a plague weapon, so people might take a Power Fist on the Plague Champion more often. And it'd be great to see a buff for the Great Plague Cleaver. Maybe it doesn't subtract 1 from the hit roll, or maybe it allows the Plague Marine to have an extra attack, because then maybe you could see Plague Marines being taken as these sort of CC tank buster units, because a Plague Cleaver on paper is actually really powerful. It's basically a power fist with D6 damage instead of D3. So maybe if it saw a points drop or it gave you an extra attack, people might take it more often. So gang, thanks for listening to my drawn out wishlisty rant. If we saw even 2 of these changes in Psychic Awakening, it'd be amazing. But the cynic in me says that the only thing that will change is that we'll get 7 sub-factions exactly like the A Thousand Suns book, as well as 2 pages of new stratagems. If you like this video and would like to see more tactics and modelling Death Guard videos, remember to leave a like and subscribe. It all helps boost my ego and helps with the algorithm. I'll catch you all in the next video. Also, quick side note, has anybody else in the UK got another code? I've never had this many codes in a season before in my life. Hashtag truly blessed.